The sky burned with fire. Smoke twisted across jagged cliffs, and lava hissed as it poured into the dark chasm below. Somewhere in the chaos, a small human baby cried. The sound pierced through the roar of the storm, fragile yet unyielding. Lightning split the sky, illuminating a cliff ledge where the child lay, swaddled in tattered cloth, abandoned and trembling. A massive shadow swept over the baby, a dragon, its scales glinting like molten metal. Its eyes were golden, wary but curious. The creature sniffed the air, nostrils flaring as it studied the fragile human. Flames from the nearby eruption reflected in its gaze, turning its face into a mask of fire and smoke. The dragon lowered itself, talons digging into the jagged stone, and for a heartbeat, nothing moved except the baby's trembling breath. Then the baby rolled, almost falling toward the abyss. Instinct, raw and primal, surged in the child. Though barely able to lift his head, he reached toward a strange crystal lying beside him. It pulsed softly, glowing blue against the blackened rocks. The dragon hissed, a warning sound, yet its wings stayed folded. The infant's fingers brushed the crystal, and the glow flared, sending a shock of light across the ledge. The dragon recoiled slightly, eyes wide. The wind howled, carrying ash and sparks. The ledge trembled as part of it broke away, crumbling into the molten river below. The dragon snatched the baby up just in time, wings beating with a deafening rush. The baby clutched the crystal tighter, its glow cutting through the darkness, a beacon of fragile life against the storm. High above, perched on another cliff, an ancient dragon watched. Its scales shimmered like silver mist, and its eyes held a strange intelligence. It did not move, yet the air around it seemed to pulse. The child's cry had awakened something older than the volcano, something that had waited centuries for this moment. The sight of the glowing infant made the elder lean forward slightly, as though measuring the weight of fate itself. The flying dragon twisted midair, landing in a sheltered cave beneath an overhang. The baby's crying slowed, soothed by the dragon's warmth. Its talons curled gently around the child, careful not to harm, yet fierce enough to protect. The crystal continued to hum softly in the child's grasp. Each pulse seemed to speak a language the dragon could feel but not hear. A rumble shook the cave. Rock fell from the ceiling, dust choking the air. The dragon pressed itself over the baby, shielding it with a wing. Sparks of molten rock landed nearby, sizzling as if the very earth was testing their survival. The baby's small hand reached out again, brushing the dragon's snout. The creature's growl softened, almost a purr, a recognition that life and courage had entered its world. Lightning struck closer this time, splitting a nearby cliff with a deafening crash. The sound made the cave tremble, but the dragon did not flinch. The baby's cry, once pure fear, now carried determination, a tiny defiance against the raging elements. Even in such peril, the infant's small hands clutched the crystal as though understanding its importance, though no one had taught him. Outside, a shadow flickered across the cliff tops. Something stirred, slender, dark and moving with eerie grace. The elder dragon had stepped from its perch. A whisper of wind carried a strange vibration, a sound like words without language, and the crystal pulsed brighter. The infant's eyes widened, reflecting the elder's glow. The dragon holding him stiffened, wings bracing. Whatever this was, it was not bound by fire, stone, or reason. Then the ground shuddered violently. A fissure opened near the ledge, sending rocks tumbling toward the lava below. The flying dragon reacted instantly, leaping forward, claws gripping the baby and the crystal. Flames licked the cave entrance, smoke filling the narrow space. The infant let out a sharp, sudden cry, not fear but insistence, as if demanding survival. The dragon's wings beat furiously, sending them into a higher, safer cavern. The elder dragon's gaze followed every movement, eyes narrowing. The baby's cry echoed against the volcanic walls, tiny yet commanding, and the crystal flared again, casting light on something hidden in the shadows. Shapes moved just out of sight. Others watching, waiting, curious. Questions formed in the silence. Who abandoned this child? Why was the crystal here? What had the baby done to attract ancient eyes? As the dragon landed, panting and careful, the baby's hand loosened from the crystal. It rolled slightly, reaching for the dragon's neck. In that brief moment, the storm outside seemed to pause, the world holding its breath. Then, from deep within the cavern, a low, haunting hum began, like the voice of the earth itself, or perhaps something older. The baby's eyes met the glowing aura of the elder dragon peering through the cave entrance. And then, without warning, the cavern shook again. A section of rock fell, blocking the only exit. The The baby cried louder, the sound slicing through smoke and fire. The dragon growled, stamping its claws, tense and ready. The crystal pulsed violently, casting jagged shadows that twisted across the walls. Somewhere in the darkness, unseen shapes stirred closer. The baby reached out, and the glow from the crystal flared, a sudden blinding light that forced even the elder dragon to blink. Whatever force had been watching, waiting, had now noticed fully. And in that flash, the world seemed to change. The storm, the lava, the dragons, and the infant, all bound together by something neither fire nor time could destroy. The air was thick with anticipation, the unknown pressing in from every side. The baby, small but defiant, held a power no one yet understood. And the first move of destiny had begun. Years passed, and the storm that had abandoned Kalen as a baby faded into memory, though its echoes shaped every step of his life. He was no longer an infant clinging to a crystal. He was a boy now, wiry, quick, and fearless, living among dragons who had become both family and allies. His small hands were calloused from climbing cliffs, swinging across ridges, and learning to communicate with creatures far older and stronger than himself. But even as he played among fire and wings, the quiet peace of Dragonland was fragile. One morning, the village of dragons erupted in chaos. Screeches pierced the skies as a rogue pack descended, scales glinting darker than molten rock. Their eyes were cruel, red with hunger for dominance. Smoke from distant eruptions mingled with their battle cries. Kalen, perched on a ridge, saw them tearing through hatchlings, claws slashing at nests and scorched earth. His heart pounded. This was no ordinary threat. These dragons were bigger, faster, and merciless. Kalen didn't hesitate. Instinct and years of learning surged through him. He grabbed a satchel of stones infused with the crystal's glow, the same crystal that had saved him, and hurled one into the air. The stone split mid-flight, scattering sparks across the ridge. The rogue pack faltered, startled by the unexpected light. A small victory, but it gave Kalen the edge he needed to act. He called out in the ancient draconic tones he had practiced, a voice small but commanding. A group of dragons nearest to him paused, recognizing the boy's signal. Kalen sprinted down the slope, weaving between jagged rocks, shouting instructions. He directed the young dragons toward shelter, then leapt across a gap in the cliffs to position himself between the attackers and the vulnerable hatchlings. His heart hammered, but fear never slowed him. Every decision was precise, born of intelligence and courage. One rogue dragon lunged at him, jaws snapping. Kalen ducked, rolling to the side, and pressed the glowing crystal against a sharp rock. It flared brightly, blinding the attacker. The dragon yelped and recoiled, giving Kalen a chance to dash behind another ridge. Sparks from the stone burned on the ground, marking a path that kept the rogue dragons confused, chasing shadows and light rather than the true target. Amid the chaos, Kalen spotted the youngest hatchlings trapped on a crumbling ledge. Lava bubbled dangerously below. Without a second thought, he grabbed a length of rope discarded by the elder dragons and fashioned a sling. He swung it over a jagged spire and anchored it to a boulder, then carefully lowered the hatchlings one by one. Each rescue was tense. The spire trembled under the heat and weight, but Kalen never faltered. Every decision he made had consequences, and he calculated them all in seconds. Finally, the pack's leader, larger than any dragon Kalen had faced, descended from the smoke. Its eyes gleamed with malice and black smoke curled from its nostrils. Kalen froze for the briefest heartbeat, calculating. Then he ran toward a cliff, dragging a glowing crystal shard across the rocks. The shard sparked violently, sending a spray of molten light toward the approaching leader. The dragon hissed and recoiled, shaking the ridge with its roar. Kalen vaulted over a boulder, landing behind the pack. The other dragons, seeing his daring, joined the fray with renewed courage. The battle turned quickly. Kalen's clever use of light, terrain, and timing disrupted the rogue pack's coordination. Dragons who had been afraid to fight now rallied, inspired by his courage and quick thinking. One by one the attackers faltered, retreating into smoke and shadow. Kalen's lungs burned, his arms ached, but the victory was real. The hatchlings were safe, trembling but unharmed, and the rogue dragons had fled, for now. As the smoke settled, Kalen noticed the marks on his hands, the faint lines of energy glowing from the crystal, creeping along his skin like living veins. The elders had warned that the crystal could awaken hidden potential, but no one knew the full extent. He flexed his fingers, watching the glow respond, and a shiver ran through him. Something was changing inside him. Something that made him more than a boy raised by dragons. Kalen knelt beside the hatchlings, calming them with soft words. Their eyes, wide and trusting, reflected the courage he had shown. A small payoff for his struggle, the knowledge that his actions mattered, that life could be saved by human ingenuity even in a world ruled by dragons. But before he could savor the moment, a low, guttural whisper carried through the cliffs, ancient and chilling. The rogue pack's leader had not merely fled, it had spoken. Its voice, translated by instinct and memory, was not a threat of destruction but of prophecy. The one who commands the scales will either bind or break us all. The words twisted in Kalen's mind. He had fought to protect life, but this warning hinted at a destiny far larger than the battle he had just survived. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the cliffside. In the distance, Kalen glimpsed movement, shapes sliding along the volcanic ridges. Not dragons, not entirely, but something else. Watching. Waiting. Questions pressed in. Why did the crystal respond now? What did the prophecy truly mean? And who, or what, was following them from the shadows? Kalen's chest tightened. His instincts screamed that the day's victory was only a beginning. He had acted with courage and intelligence, and yet the world had already shifted beneath him. Something older than Dragonland had taken notice. The crystal pulsed in his palm, bright and insistent, as if urging him forward. He clenched it tighter. Behind him, the hatchlings whimpered, seeking comfort. Kalen rose, gaze sweeping the horizon. Smoke, fire, and the flicker of distant shapes painted a warning in the sky. The rogue dragons might have fled, but the story was far from over. And then, from the shadows of the cliffs, a faint shimmer appeared, like a ripple in the air. Something alive, moving, and intelligent. Kalen froze, the glow of the crystal brightening sharply. Whatever it wasn't just watching. It was coming. The storm had passed, but danger had not. The trial was only beginning. The shimmer in the shadows moved closer, and Kalen's grip tightened on the crystal. His heart pounded, but his mind worked fast. The shapes resolved into figures. Dragons, yes, but unlike any he had ever seen. Their scales were etched with patterns that glowed faintly, like ancient runes. Eyes sharp and intelligent, they circled him, silent and observant. Kalen did not step back. Instead, he raised the crystal, letting its soft glow illuminate the runes on their scales. Immediately, a low hum resonated through the air, vibrating in his chest and filling the canyon. The dragons shifted, responding to the crystal's energy. Kalen's instincts told him this was no ordinary encounter. These dragons were guardians of something hidden, ancient. One of the elder pattern dragons landed on a nearby ledge, wings folding with deliberate grace. It lowered its head toward him and, in a voice that echoed without sound, transmitted an image, a vision of humans and dragons together long ago. Cities carved into mountains, dragons soaring beside people who wielded glowing crystals like the one in Kalen's hands. Civilization and legend intertwined. Kalen staggered back. His breath caught. The image flickered again, a human standing on a ridge, leading dragons in formation, a crystal glowing brightly at his chest. The resemblance was uncanny. Could this have been him or someone like him? His chest tightened with both awe and fear. The crystal hummed more insistently, and he realized it was responding to the memory of something greater, something waiting for him to awaken. You are not merely a child of dragons, the vision whispered through his mind. You are their bridge, their leader, their hope. The words were clear, yet wrapped in a riddle. Kalen's stomach churned. He had saved hatchlings, defeated a rogue pack, and earned the trust of his dragon family, but this was destiny, and it pressed on him like molten rock. He remembered the markings that had appeared on his hands after the battle. The glow had grown stronger with each act of courage, each life saved. And now, confronted by these ancient guardians, it pulsed as if confirming a bond he did not yet understand. A strange warmth spread through him, not just in his hands but deep in his chest. Responsibility surged alongside fear. The elder pattern dragon nudged a stone aside, revealing a hidden entrance in the cliff, a narrow tunnel carved by hands and claws long gone. Kalen stepped forward cautiously. The crystal's glow filled the passage, revealing walls etched with symbols identical to the runes on the dragon's scales. Each symbol vibrated softly, like a heartbeat, guiding him further in. The air smelled of ash and age, and somewhere deep within, the faint hum of energy thrummed like a distant drum. Inside, Kalen found a chamber of staggering scale. The floor was a mosaic of dragons and humans intertwined, each figure glowing faintly as if alive. At the center lay a pedestal, and on it rested another crystal, larger and more radiant than his own. Its light pulsed slowly like a breathing heart. Kalen's chest tightened as he stepped closer. This was more than history, it was a map, a record of a pact between species, and perhaps a key to something far greater than he had ever imagined. He reached for the pedestal, but before his fingers touched the crystal, a voice slithered through the chamber. "You should not be here." Kalen spun around. A rival dragon clan emerged from the shadows, sleek, dark, with eyes glinting dangerously. Their leader stepped forward, claws clicking against the stone floor. "This archive belongs to us. Remove your hand, human, or face our wrath." Kalen's mind raced. The crystal's hum intensified, sinking with the glow on his hands. He realized brute force would fail. The rival dragons were too numerous and too fierce. Instead, he acted quickly, pressing his own crystal against the larger one. A surge of light exploded, connecting the two in a lattice of energy. The rival dragons recoiled, wings beating frantically, caught off guard. Kalen seized the moment to speak, his voice calm but commanding. "You may claim the archive, but it does not belong to those who seek to destroy. It belongs to those who protect." His words carried weight beyond sound. The glow from the crystals resonated with the Guardian's ancient magic, and the rival dragons froze, unnerved. Kalen stepped forward with measured courage, drawing strength from the crystal's pulse. Every instinct, every lesson from living among dragons guided him. The rival clan leader hissed, backing away but not retreating entirely. "This is only the beginning, human. The scales will test you yet." Then, without warning, the leader vanished into the shadows, taking the other dragons with him. The chamber quieted, leaving Kalen alone with the ancient crystal and the guardians. A small payoff bloomed in his chest, a mix of relief and triumph. He had acted not with brute force but with intelligence, courage, and empathy. He had earned the first measure of respect from forces older than Dragonland itself. Yet the warning lingered like a shadow. The rival clan had not given up. Their threat hinted at a larger, more dangerous journey awaiting him. Kalen knelt beside the pedestal, letting the glow of the crystal wash over him. Questions pressed against his mind like sharp stones. What did the archive truly hold? Why had his destiny been intertwined with these dragons? And what other powers, or dangers, were waiting beyond this hidden chamber? He touched the larger crystal again and the vision returned. This time, it revealed dragons soaring beyond Dragonland, humans standing at their side, and a vast expanse of worlds connected by light, scales, and courage. The hum from his crystal echoed the promise of a path he was only beginning to walk. Outside, the wind stirred, carrying the distant cries of dragons and the hiss of molten rivers. Kalen rose, pulse quickened, awareness sharp. He had faced rogue packs, survived storms, and awakened the legacy hidden in the stone and scale. But the deeper journey was only starting. Something older, larger, and more powerful than anything he had imagined was watching, and waiting. The glow from the crystal intensified one last time, casting jagged shadows on the walls. Kalen clenched it tightly. Whatever trials lay ahead, he would face them with courage, intelligence, and the relentless determination that had defined his life since the cliffside where he had first cried in the fire. And then, from the chamber's darkest corner, a shadow stirred, a movement that was not dragon, not human, but something entirely alien. Kalen froze, pulse hammering. The hidden legacy had revealed itself, but it had also awakened something else. The trial was far from over. Smoke twisted across Dragonland's cliffs, the air thick with heat and the smell of sulfur. Kalen stood at the edge of a ridge, the crystal in his hand glowing brighter than ever. The alien shadow from the hidden chamber had followed him, its presence unseen but unmistakable, rippling the air, bending light, and pressing into his mind with a strange, cold intelligence. The rogue dragon clan, still smarting from their last encounter, circled below, their eyes gleaming red and cruel. Kalen didn't flinch. He had faced storms, rogue packs, and the awakening of a hidden legacy, but this felt larger, heavier. He scanned the terrain, calculating every ridge, crevice, and lava flow. The hatchlings he had rescued before were huddled in a protected cave behind him, their safety guaranteed by dragons loyal to him. He couldn't afford to lose them, or the chance to prove that humans could lead. The rogue dragons dove first, wings slicing the smoke-filled sky, claws extended. Kalen's pulse raced, but his mind remained razor-sharp. He hurled the glowing crystal into the air. It shattered mid-flight, scattering shards that flared like miniature suns. The light dazed the attackers, buying him precious seconds. Using the terrain to his advantage, he ran toward a narrow pass where only one dragon could approach at a time. The rest would be forced to wait, or risk falling into the molten river below. Kalen's voice rang out, clear and commanding. He called to the dragons he had raised, the ones loyal to him. They answered with cries and wings beating, rushing to flank him. Humans might be small, but Kalen had learned to see patterns others could not, to anticipate moves instinctively. Together with the dragons, he created a living wall of scales, claws, and strategy. A massive rogue dragon lunged, teeth snapping at him mid-step. Kalen rolled under its swing, grabbing a shard from the scattered crystal pile. He slammed it into a stone, sending sparks into the dragon's eyes. The creature recoiled, its roar echoing across the cliffs, and Kalen dashed past it. One by one, he drew the rogue dragons into traps he had prepared. Lava flows redirected, precarious rocks poised to fall, and clever use of shadows to confuse and divide them. Every move had a consequence, every action counted. Then came the alien presence. It revealed itself in a shimmer of rippling air, a creature like nothing Kalen had seen, its body translucent and serpentine, hovering above the battlefield. It exhaled a soundless wave that unsettled even the dragons, causing some to falter mid-flight. Kalen felt its intention pressing against his mind, probing, testing. It wasn't hostile yet, it was curious, evaluating his courage, his intelligence, his capacity to lead. Kalen clenched the crystal shard in his hand, summoning every ounce of focus. He shouted commands to the dragons, guiding them with precise, almost human-like strategy. The loyal dragons swooped, diving and flanking with synchronicity no other dragon could achieve alone. The rogue pack staggered, outmaneuvered by what they surely could not comprehend, a human orchestrating the battlefield. The stakes escalated further as the ground beneath them trembled violently. A lava river burst through a weakened section of cliff, threatening to cut off Kalen's escape. He sprinted forward, leaping from rock to rock, the crystal pulsing in his hand. With a precise throw, he directed shards into the path of the rushing lava. They exploded in blinding sparks, temporarily diverting the flow and giving the dragons time to regroup. But then one of the loyal dragons screamed. A young dragon had been trapped on a collapsing ledge, its claws scraping stone. Without hesitation, Kalen dashed forward, weaving between falling rocks, reaching it just as the ledge began to give way. He grabbed its talon, anchoring it to a stable rock, pulling it free. Sparks and heat swirled around him, but he never faltered. The dragon shivered against him, and for a brief moment, their eyes met, trust and courage reflected in both. Kalen's pulse raced, the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The rogue dragons were faltering, their coordination ruined by Kalen's leadership and clever use of the environment. He could see them hesitate, unsure how to counter the strategy of a single human directing dragons like a general. The alien presence hovered closer, its translucent form rippling with fascination. It had never encountered a human like this, small, fragile, yet unyielding in courage and intelligence. Then came the final shock. The leader of the rogue pack roared, larger and faster than the rest, charging straight for Kalen. The crystal pulsed violently in his hand, and in a flash of instinct, Kalen hurled it toward the lava river. The shards erupted in a blinding flare of energy, creating a temporary wall of light and force. The leader slammed into it, knocked off balance, tumbling into the molten flow below. The remaining rogue dragons fled, some wounded, all defeated. Kalen staggered to his knees, exhausted but triumphant. The hatchlings squeaked in relief from their cave, and the loyal dragons circled above, their roars echoing in victory. His chest heaved, sweat and ash coating his skin, but a small, satisfying warmth spread through him. He had protected life, outsmarted enemies, and survived an impossible assault. Yet the alien presence hovered silently, rippling in the heat haze. Its interest had not waned, it had only intensified. Kalen felt its awareness pressing against his mind again, as if saying, this was only a test. His pulse quickened, realizing that this victory, impressive though it was, had only drawn the attention of something far older and far more powerful than any dragon or rogue pack. Kalen stood, gripping the remnants of the crystal. The lava smoke curled around him like fingers, and the wind carried the cries of dragons across the cliffs. He had won the battle, but the war, against destiny, against forces beyond Dragonland, against the unknown, was just beginning. The pulse of the crystal felt almost alive, guiding him forward, urging him to prepare for what was coming. From the distant peaks, the shadow of the alien presence flickered again, moving faster than thought. Kalen's eyes narrowed. His mind raced, plotting, calculating, and imagining. He was small, human, and yet in this moment, commanding dragons and standing against forces that would terrify even the bravest of creatures. The trial had been fire, chaos, and impossible odds, and he had emerged victorious. But the final question burned in his chest. What greater challenge awaited beyond this victory in the vast, uncharted world? The glow of the crystal flared, lighting the cliffs like a second sun. Kalen's eyes locked on the distant horizon. Something waited for him there, older, stranger, and more dangerous than anything he had faced. And he would meet it head-on. Kalen stood at the edge of the highest cliff in Dragonland, the wind tearing at his clothes, the crystal shard still glowing faintly in his hand. Below, dragons roared in a chorus of victory, circling over lava rivers and jagged ridges. The rogue pack had fled, the hatchlings were safe, and the alien presence lingered just beyond the horizon, watching. Yet Kalen felt no relief, only the weight of what was coming. The glow of the crystal pulsed stronger, responding to him, almost alive. His hands tingled, energy crawling up his arms like veins of light. The hidden legacy of humans and dragons had awakened in him, a power older than any dragon's memory. Kalen's chest tightened with understanding. He was no longer merely a boy raised among dragons. He was their commander, chosen by fate and by courage. He turned to the loyal dragons around him. Their eyes reflected intelligence, trust, and curiosity. He raised a hand and they settled into formation, wings folding, heads tilted toward him. Kalen's voice, though human and small compared to their roars, carried command. We defend Dragonland together. No one can threaten this home while we stand united. The air seemed to vibrate with his certainty. Even the wind paused, the world bending to the moment. The alien presence shimmered closer, now fully visible. It was massive, serpentine, translucent, its form rippling with energy that warped light around it. Kalen's first instinct was caution, but then he realized it did not attack. It studied him, assessing, calculating. It seemed to weigh courage, intelligence, and the integrity of heart, the qualities humans often overlooked in themselves but Kalen embodied in abundance. He lifted the crystal toward the alien, letting it glow as a beacon. The light pulsed outward, and a connection sparked between him and the creature, not through words but understanding. It was a test and an acknowledgement. Kalen had proven his worth, not through strength alone, but through action, leadership, and compassion. The alien recoiled, then circled back, hovering quietly. A silent promise passed between them. Kalen was no longer just a boy of Dragonland. He was the bridge, the one who could command dragons, negotiate with unknown forces, and protect life. Below, the hatchlings squeaked, sensing the calm and the surge of energy. Kalen stepped forward and reached out, allowing one of the youngest dragons to nuzzle his shoulder. He felt the bond, the trust, the shared understanding that humans and dragons could work as equals. No creature was beneath him and no challenge too great. Courage was not just action, it was empathy, cleverness, and the willingness to act when others hesitated. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the cliff. Rocks shifted, and from the volcanic fissures a new threat emerged. Creatures made of molten stone, jagged and unpredictable, spilling from the earth like living magma. Even the dragons hesitated. Kalen's eyes narrowed. He had no time to think, he had to act. He dropped the crystal into a shallow cavity of cooled lava, letting it pulse and radiate energy. The magma creatures recoiled, slowed, and then froze in place, responding to the ancient power of the crystal. Kalen's strategic mind seized the moment. He climbed to a higher ledge, shouting commands. The dragons leapt into coordinated positions, using their flight, claws, and fire to redirect the molten creatures back toward fissures where they belonged. The young dragons followed his signals perfectly, a testament to Kalen's leadership and the respect he had earned. Every action had consequence, every move counted, and Kalen's intelligence turned chaos into victory. When the last of the magma creatures sank back into the fissures, silence fell. The wind carried a faint, lingering hum, the alien presence, acknowledging that Kalen had triumphed not by brute force, but by vision, courage, and leadership. The crystal shimmered, finally still as if satisfied. Kalen's body tingled with exhaustion, but his spirit soared. He had faced fire, rogue dragons, and creatures older than the world itself, and he had succeeded. Kalen looked over Dragonland, the cliffs, the lava rivers, the soaring dragons, and the glowing hatchlings. He realized the truth: humans were not weak. They could lead, inspire, and survive even in a world ruled by giants. He had proven that intelligence, empathy, and bravery could command respect, even from dragons and mysterious forces alike. From the far horizon, the alien presence flickered one last time, rippling across the sky like liquid light. Kalen understood its message: the trials were not over. The galaxy beyond Dragonland held challenges far greater than rogue packs or molten monsters. But he was ready. He had the knowledge, the dragons, and the courage to face what came next. Kalen knelt beside a hatchling, placing his hand gently on its scaled head. "We survive together," he whispered. "We thrive together. And whatever waits beyond, we face it as one." The crystal in his hand pulsed faintly, echoing his words, confirming that he was no longer alone, and no longer small. The wind carried a faint, eerie shimmer from the cliffs beyond, hinting at mysteries yet unrevealed. Kalen's gaze hardened. The rogue dragon clan would return, the alien presence might follow, and deeper secrets of the crystal and dragonland were still hidden. He stood, shoulders squared, heart steady, ready to command not just dragonland but whatever future awaited. A distant roar of dragons echoed across the mountains, harmonizing with the crystal's pulse. Kalen's eyes flicked toward the horizon, where shadowed cliffs hinted at new worlds, new challenges and new allies. He was human, but in courage, wisdom and heart he was extraordinary. And as the wind carried whispers of distant fires and unseen creatures, Kalen realized, the story of the boy raised among dragons had only just begun. A larger adventure waited, far beyond Dragonland, and he would lead,